Alright, let's do this. It is another TVZ. At the sc2c.com, gold, platinum, and diamond, open number 60. Shout out to everyone who is playing and is then tuning into the stream if you're not playing yet, or if you've played. And unfortunately, we're knocked out, as we can see. Blaze has joined the chat. Hello to Blaze. We're sort of talking about it just before. I won't go into it too much, but you had everything looked pretty much like really good. It was just I think the SCV count was a little bit too high, and you sort of pushed out with a sort of low amount of forces while you were expanding at the same time. The unfortunate part of mech is that you can't really be too mobile with it, but either way, our new game here on WCS in Toon Valley is between our good buddy Inshuae. Oh man. Who is down the bottom left-hand side here in the red. His opponent, top right, in the... what is that one again? That's teal? Or cyan? Blue? We'll call it blue. I don't care, I'm colorblind, I don't give a shit. Is HowAreYa? HowAreYa? HowAreYa, mate? You can tell this is C20 if someone's called HowAreYa. Anyway, Zerg versus Terran on Entombed, of course. A lot of Zergs don't like this map because of the ease of taking the 3 bases here. As we can see, you can sort of head down here, grab this one. If you set up a couple of tanks, maybe a little bit of a wall with some supply depots, and then sort of just camp out as a Terran on 3 bases, you can pick up all the tech you need, grab some of those tasty bio forces, do some drops all over the place. That's another big thing that sort of is a big factor of this map, is that there are all sorts of directions you can head into to drop on people. You can drop down here, you can drop down the side here, you can also drop up at this side. So as a Zerg, you have to be very, very diligent with your overlord placements to make sure that you can see everything that is going on. As we can see, HowAreYa just sort of positioning them across to the sides. What we're going to see him do is he's actually going to head down here with this one. It should get across in time, an Inshuae now just scouting out. So not a map where you kind of need to... I wouldn't say as a Terran or a Protoss, it's not a map where you have to do a 2-base timing or anything like that. It's a map where, as we said, you can take your natural, make sure everything's looking good, do a bit of harassment if you want, do a couple of drops with some Hellions, or send a Banshee across, and take your third while you're at all of that, and you'll look very pretty in no time. Meanwhile, what's been going on while I've been ranting is that HowAreYa has taken the gas inside the main base of Inshuae here. So what he's doing here is just denying a bit of gas income, meaning that he can sort of think to himself, alright, if a Terran doesn't have both of the gas, what tech does that limit? And of course that will limit cloak banshees. Technically you can get cloak banshees out off the 1 gas, it's just a little bit slower than what it normally would be, and you may only see 1 cloak banshee at a threatening time. But what it also does is it also just cuts down, you know, random sorts of crazy things like proxy Thors or anything that could be very, very crazy with gas like that. But as we can see, Inshuae gonna do the exact same thing as he did in the previous game or the game before that, whichever one it was, where he's gonna get out a couple of Hellions, send them across, and try and do some damage like that. Meanwhile, he's going to get a second factory up. Interesting. With a tech lab. Is he going to mech? Maybe. Did he see Blaze playing and said, you know what, that's a bit of badass style, perhaps I can do that too? We'll find out in a minute, but he does have a command center going down at the natural. A couple of queens out for HowAreYa. No gas just yet, so it looks as if he is going to go for that standard sort of style, just going to wait a little bit longer. However, I'm a little bit worried that he's not going to be able to defend against the Hellions, but it looks as if the Hellions have decided they're just going to sit here and knock on the front door, wait until it's time to go in, and then actually get caught out by a queen or two. Is he going to be able to get that creep tumor? Does. Very nicely done. I'll accept that from Inshuae. That was pretty cool. Made sure he got that one. But there is a drone that's going to head across to the 3rd base, not aware that there is a Hellion that's just camped out there, ready to flame. And there he goes. 1, 2, 3, 4, one more, bam, there you go. So, okay, he's sending the queens over. Didn't really sort of expect that. But I think, okay, this is going to be some Blue Flame Hellion action from Inshuae. He's not cool enough to mech just yet. He might, though, very soon. He has picked up a third gas over at the Natural Expand, and is currently still sitting on 1 SCV inside the refinery. So a little bit behind in that regard, but the queens have come across to get rid of that Hellion, forcing the Hellion away. He won't be able to get up into the main either because there is a Spine Crawler here along with that extra queen, and now the gases have been taken by HowAreYa. So he's got the 3 gas here, so we'll probably see him just switch into something pretty standard. But just speaking of standard, here's something that's not always standard, is these Hellions just sort of grouping up in the middle. He's also, okay, he is going to go for mech, it looks like. Inshuae is either going to go for a ridiculous amount of Hellions busting through, or he's going to go for a mech style, and it looks as if an Overlord is actually going to scout everything out. Saw the 3 factories here, saw that the tech lab was having a party there with the green lights, and also that there was a reactor on that factory. Did his job, so good stuff there from HowAreYa. Drone count looking pretty good at the moment, up to 46, 32 SCVs for Inshuae. He is going to attack in now. Blue Flame is done. He's just going to say hello, HowAreYa, and going to get rid of a lot of these drones. We'll check the drone count in just a second, but trying to split them up is HowAreYa, but he's still going to lose quite a lot of these. Roasting those up, it is a Zerg barbecue here on a Sunday night at the SC2C GPD. Hellions trying to get through the queens, but they're too fat. You ladies need to go to the Weight Watchers, and the drones are now sitting inside. Loses 14. Not too bad of a job there by those Hellions. I don't know if it was completely worth it. Like, I mean, he sent in, I think he sent in about 10, maybe 10 or so Hellions there, and got 14 drones. I'm just not completely sure that's totally worth it. So we'll find out very soon. But he is going to, looks as if he's going to switch into a mech style here. I tell you what, they are. And it looks as if, yeah, I'm pretty sure he is going to stick with the mech style here. So he's following in the footsteps of Blaze, or perhaps in the footsteps of me after my my 5th place finish with mech last night at the bronze, silver, gold. And just looking at what's going on here for HowAreYa, he's picked up a few roaches just to make sure that those Hellions can't do that sort of damage again, because of course roaches will just destroy these Hellions. But now gets into the 3rd, he's going to try and roast down this SCV. I tell you what, this guy is a hero. He's repairing the Hellions here and has actually blocked this Hellion. Wow, how BM is that SCV? Blocked off the Hellion, and it died after the SCV died. Anyway, macro hatch up. We got a infestation pick coming through. Roach Warren is researching the roach speed, so he is going to have that in just a second. But the Hellions are coming back for another pass. They're going to try and get in. Will they be able to get some of these drones here? He's trying to slow down and hit them. Bit of a drive-by here at the back of the mineral line. Is he going to be able to find that lineup of drones? No, he's not going to be able to catch up with that. And most of the drones do escape. He does get quite a few more, but roaches come in and clean up the rest of that. And 22 is now the total of drones that are being killed. We're up to 55. So HowAreYa quite a lot further behind where we would really want to be. But Inshuae is, as we can see here, getting that mech going. He's got +1 to the weapons done. He's picking up a 2nd armory as well as the eBay as well, just to make sure that he can get a couple of turrets perhaps for some detection. And it looks as if he's going to try and just really beef up that tank count. Now moving across, he's going to secure this 3rd base. This map is very, very good for mech. I cannot sort of elaborate, or what is that? I'm looking for a word here, I can't remember what it is. Anyway, you cannot underestimate how good this map is for mech. Now with mech, you really want to create a line of defense. Now if we start from this top left-hand side, it's just sort of where the center of the screen is, you can sort of see that the contours of the map actually give you that line where you sort of want to just defend in this sort of region here. You obviously want to make sure that this ramp is heavily protected, the 2nd ramp down at the 3rd is also protected, and then you should be quite good. But hello, down at the 3rd base of HowAreYa, getting absolutely annihilated there at the 3rd base. Some Hellions snuck through and were able to take a few kills, may even get the queen, does get a queen here. and that is definitely worth it. I'm sorry I didn't actually catch that. I was busy ranting about the map, but that is going to put HowAreYa in a bit of a troublesome spot. Now he's down to 56 workers. He was a little bit higher before. He was up at around about 70, which is a good number you want to get to as a Zerg on 3 bases, looking to get 4, and this means that Inshuae is going to be able to sit back again and just sort of sit here and just get his mech army up. Now, an Overseer is going to see what's going on, should be able to see that the +1 weapons is done. As we can see on the production tab, +1 to armor is also just about done. Tanks now moving across to secure that side part. Planetary Fortress, not sure if that's totally needed here at the 3rd, but either way, it's good to have that extra protection. But the Roach is finally establishing some map dominance here, and I do like that these Infestors are out. Now, we mentioned before in Blaze's game against Resist that picking up the Ultras and doing drops with Roaches is a very good way of dealing with mech, but also having those Infestors out is also a fantastic way of doing it. If you get your Neural Parasite out, if you NP the Thors and perhaps even some of the tanks, you can just lay waste to some of these Terran units here, because of course the tanks are very sexy because they do the plus damage to armored, but that means that they can do a lot of damage to essentially all of these units that the Terran has right here. Now, we've got Inshuae moving out with 140 supply. As we mentioned in the previous game with Blaze, I'm not sure that this is the best idea to sort of just move out with this sort of half-baked amount. Now, when Blaze moved out in the previous game, he was at 200, which was very nice, but it was a lot of sort of a subpar 200 compared to what he could have had, where he had 80 SCVs, which is a little bit too much. Now, Inshuae is moving out. He does have good upgrades. What is HowAreYa going to do? Is he's borrowed some of these Infestors, going to come across, drop down some Infested Terrans on top of the tanks. Beautiful work there. That is actually a really good way to deal with this. And the Infested Terrans will pop up. They're going to do damage, of course, to the tanks, but the tanks will do the splash damage as well. I think he will even be able to take out the Thors. There you go, beautiful work from HowAreYa to get rid of that mech army. Meanwhile, some Hellions did get through into the 3rd base yet again, and that has caused some more losses. Around about 17 drones were lost in total. So while HowAreYa did a great job of fending off the mech attack that came through the top side, he did lose some more drones. And what I would really like to see here from Inshuae is just to sit back. He doesn't need to do anything else. He's effectively done what he needs to do for now. What he really needs to do at this point is sit back, turtle up with these tanks. He's got 2-2 on the way. Once these extra, you need perhaps even add on an extra orbital command as well. He's got some extra factories, which is quite nice. So he's now up to a total of 5 in total. 4 of them Tech Lab. And the Roaches try and say hello, HowAreYa, but not really going to get too far. Some Vikings now scouting around, trying to find any sort of extra units that are any overlords that are floating about. But as I was saying, I would really like to see Inshuae just sort of sit back now, but it looks as if he is going to head out, and is he? No? I don't know what he's doing right now, but as we can see on HowAreYa's side of things, he's trying to get this extra expansion down the bottom. The hive is done. We still have no sort of, the higher tech isn't out just yet, but unfortunately, this is actually the worst time for Inshuae here. He gets caught out by the Infestors. A couple of Funk Growths go down. Where are the Corruptors? Here they are. The Corruptors do pop out, but they're not going to head across, and now we're going to see those switch into the Broodlords in just a moment here, because that Great Aspire is done. So what HowAreYa needs to do, switch in some of these Broodlords, perhaps get a few more Infestors out now. That normal deadly combination of Broodlord Infestor still does a nice job as long as you can take care of the sky. Now the problem is for Inshuae is that he's still got these 3 starports, so he's going to be able to crank out Vikings at an enormous pace, and once he picks up, maybe even after this 2-2, he should be able to grab a couple of upgrades for those Vikings as well. And now, as we can see, one Roach not even able to land on that Roach, unfortunately for that command center, gets stuck at this point. And now a Hellion is going to scout out that this base is over here across at the side. The tank count looking very nice for Inshuae at the moment. 14 tanks, 2 Thors, 13 Hellions in total, and a few Vikings to go with it. And now even adding on the Corvid reactor, so he can get a few of those Ravens out, which is always nice. Let's not underestimate the power of Ravens, as I I'm sure Nesty can attend to if you saw IEM. Now, with this push, obviously we'll want to see Inshuae spread it out just a little bit more. These tanks being clumped up like this are perfect quarry for these infestors, not to mention the Broodlords as well. We've got a whole bunch of Broodlords now morphing in, 8 of them in fact. There probably could be a few more which are going to be added to the mix, but still waiting to see how Inshuae is going to deal with this. Where is his, what's his Viking count at? He's at 4. He's still at 4 Vikings. We're going to need a few more than that if he wants to survive this engagement, because these Broodlords, while obviously very susceptible to the Vikings, they're not going to be too disrupted by all these tanks. And now it looks as if Inshuae is going to try and perhaps do a little bit of a side attack here, but the Broodlords are going to come along. They're going to just absolutely destroy everything here unless Inshuae gets out of there. He needs to get back, get these tanks out of dodge, because now the attack is on. The Broodlords are coming. He needs to get a few more of those Vikings out. Whoa, he's actually switched across some of the starports. Okay, so he's now got a few idle SCVs, needs to move them across to one of these bases. He's up at 95. Oh my god, he needs to get rid of some of these SCVs. He needs to drop at least 30 of these SCVs. In fact, send that whole bunch of SCVs off to the front lines, because he needs to get rid of them. But as we can see, HowAreYa looking very nice right here. He's got a big total of those 8 Broodlords out. We've got 10 Corruptors and 13 Infestors out. So unless a very nice sort of Hunter-Seeker comes along, which he is researching, Inshuae could be in a bit of trouble unless he gets... Are there more Vikings coming? Yeah, there are more. Alright, he's getting more Vikings, so he's not in a totally dead position. But now Inshuae trying to attack across at the side. Meanwhile, some Hellions up at the top, getting rid of some of these drones as well. As we can see, the +3 to weapons and armor for the mech units is just about to complete, along with that Hunter-Seeker, and the Ravens are going to be up in quite a nice tally very soon. The Hellions doing their job, getting rid of some of these workers. There are a total of 77 worker kills in this game. This is a ridiculous amount for Inshuae. That's just incredible. And what's more incredible is that he's still up at this 95. What he needs to do is whack down some more orbital commands, not even some planetary fortresses. He needs to get rid of some of that bank that he has, just to make sure that he's in a good spot production-wise, because if he doesn't have those extra mules to call down, later on, once he really needs a supply from these SCVs and he has to sacrifice them, he's not going to have the mules to drop down to use as his supply, as his mineral income, as I should say. Alright, so HowAreYa now moving across with these Broodlords, 10 of them in fact. The planetary fortress doing its best to try and protect the refinery, but unfortunately Broodlords do quite a lot of damage, and as we can see, Inshuae is going to be in quite a lot of trouble unless he moves across. He's got some Ravens here, and they do have a bit of energy. We've got a couple of Hunter-Seekers that are available to those Ravens. Just doing a quick mineral check back at home for HowAreYa. He's done in the main. The natural is just about eaten up. The third base is also looking good, and of course this fourth base is looking very good. But the Broodlords, oh my god, there are now 16 Broodlords out on the map, but he's got to just make sure that he doesn't clump those up. The Thors will have fun with that, and here we go, the Vikings now coming into the mix. If a couple of Hunter-Seekers go out on those Corruptors, he could be okay. There they go, couple of Hunter-Seekers, and he's got one tracking on the Infestors. Bam! And the Infestors get hit by that, and some more going off here, but there are so many Broodlords, they are clumped up, but unfortunately there are no more Ravens left, with Hunter-Seekers able to drop down the pain on these Broodlords, and I think that is going to be it. Unfortunately, Inshuae looking good, pushed out a little bit too early, and despite some good victories with his Hellions, is just not able to deal with this huge Broodlord force. Lost some of those Vikings as well earlier on at the start of the game, and I think that is just about it. There's a couple more Hunter-Seekers. Bam! And he does get a couple of them. Not too bad, but unfortunately, as we said, just not enough here for Inshuae to protect this. And the Broodlings, there are like 1 billion of them out on the map right now, and there are just so many Broodlords, and Inshuae trying to salvage what he can up at the top, but not able to do it. And that is another mech game. I find it hilarious that mech is starting to get a little bit more recognition, or is that, I don't know, is this just mech weekend perhaps? Either way, good stuff from Inshuae. HowAreYa is going to go through though with that victory there, countering the fact that he lost so many drones. I think that was 77 drones that he lost in total. which is just a ridiculous amount. But yeah, not too bad. Obviously, a couple more sort of fundamental mech issues there with how Inshuae pushing down a little bit too early with not enough supply in his tanks and doors and that kind of thing, clumping them up a little bit, and then also in one of the secondary attack, when he pushed into the middle, he was still clumped up, and then still had a supply, as we saw in Blaze's game, where it was a little bit too high on SCVs. You need to get rid of some of those SCVs, bring it down to a number sort of around about the 60, even 50s, depending on how many extra orbital commands you have. And once you have that, then you can just get rid of all your SCVs and just say, screw it buddy, I'm just going to use mules, because they're pretty cool.